Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Akua Allrich. I am from Washington, D.C., uptown girl, Northwest.
This is a little personal history. I know your father ran a African school in Northwest, I believe. Could you talk about kind of how the family came to D.C. and that project of his?
So that's a whole history. My parents are both from Mississippi and moved to Miami, finished up high school in Miami, and both of them ended up at Howard University. At Howard University, my dad he was an artist. He was a musician. He was studying music education, and he and his friends, his arts friends, came together and created a collective. Out of the collective, they performed. And that was Nation. Don't give me the line. The group's was called Nation, and out of Nation they would have these study sessions, and then they decided we need to educate our children, and so they developed out of the study sessions came an institution called NationHouse. And that was in 1974. There's a whole history at Howard University about how even the jazz program came about, and my dad was
around
a big part of that. Yeah, so all of that stuff was happening in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, and so we have a jazz program at Howard University because of my dad and his colleagues really struggling and demanding that Black history and African expression was allowed at a Black school, which is a crazy thing. At the
most prominent Black HBCU.
Right, at the Mecca, right? So it's kind of crazy that they had to fight for it, but I'm so happy that they did because that's where I went. I went to Howard University as well. But in 74, they started NationHouse, and we're still going. I am now the second generation who is running the school. I'm part of the administration. We are in our 52nd year. And yes, it's a Pan-African centered school that is independent, no funding except for people who donate. And it's our little maroon space where we educate and we incubate and we raise up our babies, children of African descent. And it's beautiful. Every time I go, I'm happy.
When you say they were before NationHouse, Nation was forming study sessions. What were those study sessions?
I'm not super sure, but I believe it was a lot of discussions about what was going on, about African-centered integration into their lives, about nation building, and just being nationalists, Black nationalists in particular. And DC was just kind of a hub for that, African-centered lifestyles, but really Black nationalist, forward thinking, and not just we're fighting the power, but we're fighting the power and we're building at the same time. So nation building was a serious component of it. And so, building a school was part of that. You're going to raise the next generation. And so that you got to educate the next generation.
Where in Northwest did you grow up?
I grew up
in Uptown. Where did you grow up?
Yes, Uptown Northwest, Shepherd Park area is where I lived. But a bulk of my growing up was over on Park Road. Goodness, what is that? Is that Columbia Heights? I don't even know. It's Park Road, which is a few blocks up from Howard University. So that was a bulk of my life in that DC area. It was very hard for the people who lived there.
How so?
But, Uptown Northwest was a much more upper middle class, Black folks. It was a nice mix of folks, but it was primarily Black and upper middle class area. We were across from the Gold Coast. We weren't on the Gold Coast. That was a little too expensive. That was across 16th Street. But where we were, it was a beautiful area. I think we had an ex-mayor who lived over there, Sharon Pratt Kelly, I think her name was. She lived over there. Her house was way bigger than ours, but I digress. Shepherd Park was where I grew up.
So it looks like Park Road is kind of stretches into Mount Pleasant, but goes through Columbia Heights and kind of south of Petworth.
Yes, yep, that whole little area. That was our stomping grounds.
So what was it like growing up with these parents who had this background and who were emphasizing this very Black Power, Pan-Africanist sense of history to others, and I assume that also came across in the family.
It was interesting, but I will say being in DC allowed it to be just kind of normal because it was such a bubble of Black beauty and pride and excellence during that period. But there was also a lot of difficulty. So it was like this dichotomy of, oppression, but also self-sufficiency at the same time. So it wasn't strange to people who were not necessarily African-centered to see us walking around in our African garb and our natural hair and very minimal makeup. It was kind of normal. I always got Assalamu alaikum. That was, people just assumed I was Muslim, even though I wasn't. But that just kind of showed how normal it was to see folks, Black people who are really culturally relevant and really trying to connect with their history.
It feels like a redundant question at this point. It seemed, but I'll phrase it this way. Seems like you then grew up in a musical family.
Oh yeah, music was a big part of my development. Music and the arts in particular. I didn't grow up as a musician. Well, that's not true. I didn't grow up singing. I grew up playing piano and dancing, African dance, and even drumming. So I was me and my siblings, there are 10 of us, were heavily immersed in African culture. And, the arts is a way of disseminating culture. It's a huge way of disseminating culture and message. So that's how we were raised. I was in dance. I was never unbusy. Never unbusy. I was always at a dance rehearsal, a performance, or in school. And so it was all about really developing these amazing humans who had a strong sense of themselves. So yeah, it was musical. And, my dad and mom had this record collection that just kind of spanned all Black expression. My dad being a jazz musician, but my mom really loving the Supremes. Like, she loved, Diana Ross was her favorite. So it was, how could she not be, right? So it spanned all of that. So I had a really Pan-African musical upbringing. And I think it shows in the way that I express myself musically today. Like, people are like, where are you from? And I'm like, DC. And they're like, that's boring. Yeah, but it is who I am. Like, but I was raised as an African woman and a Pan-African woman at that. Like, if I feel connected to this music, I'm going to try and sing it. Yeah.
What can you recall for your dad? Were there any specific artists, especially related to Pan-Africanism and Black Power, or kind of what maybe embodying those things that he would emphasize or play a lot around the house?
The funny thing is, he didn't, definitely Coltrane. Coltrane was huge. From the Love Supreme and on, those years in particular were like really pivotal in terms of expression. And who else was huge in my house? You know who was big in my house? Bill Withers. Bill Withers was a big deal in my house. Like, we would play Bill Withers all the time. Stevie Wonder, Bill Withers, Nancy Wilson. Not necessarily Black Power, but like just musically, just ridiculous. He would have albums. I remember listening to Olatunji a lot, which was very heavily African drums. That was very West African expression. And then the blues, Nina Simone, Mary McCabe was huge in my house. She was also one of my mom's favorites. So yeah, those folks were big deals in my house. Nina Simone, Mary McCabe, Bill Withers, Olatunji, Coltrane.
John Coltrane.
Coltrane was a big deal.
So when they'd have kind of Malcolm X Day or Marcus Garvey Day in the park, and they'd have these performances by like Hugh Masekela, would you be going down and seeing a lot of those performances? We did do performances. We did go down to Malcolm X Park, but we didn't do a whole lot of concerts. My parents were very
very much more into family development and educational development. Like music, like we didn't go to jam sessions and stuff. And there was actually a point when I don't even know if I must have been young. I don't know if I was born yet, but my dad decided he decided he was not going to perform. He said, I'm not doing this anymore because it wasn't serving the purpose that he wanted it to serve. And that was empowering Black people. And that was building this space for his children. And so what he did in lieu of that was he had us do our jazz band at school. We learned a little bit about jazz, and he incorporated it into our lessons. He was
at the NationHouse.
At NationHouse. He was the principal all my life. So from when I was 2 to 12th grade, he was my big teacher. But what was cool was every morning when we opened up, and yes, I had to open up with him and close up with him. We did. And he would play his horn while we were just playing. And so it was just an invocation. Yeah. Every morning, like it was, or he would play the piano once we got a piano in there. And it was natural. It was natural. And I think that's one of the things that was really big in my family, was that the arts is a part of you. It's not just this expression that you're going to.
It's not extracurricular. It's
not
fundamental.
Extracurricular. It absolutely fundamental. And you don't separate it, because when you separate it, you take the spirit out of everything. But when it's a part of just who you are and what you're doing, then it makes sense.
Was that part of, I might phrase this poorly, but was that part of the essence of what he was teaching about Black music specifically? Was that it's not and I do this thing. It is
Yes.
a thing I do because I am who I am.
Yes, absolutely. It is a part of what I am. It is a part of me. It is not something that if other people don't see, it doesn't exist. It's not something that I have to be showy about. It just is. And that I think that really made a big difference in I think that's what informed his decision to not be a performing artist any longer, is that he needed it to make sense culturally and just in terms of living. One of the things that he said to me.
He wasn't into performing.
No, he wasn't. And he was a very modest, humble guy. Like they used to call him Mysterioso. He wouldn't talk but when he spoke, it was deep. You know what I mean?
And one time, sorry, I cut you off. And one time he said to you,
he said that the art doesn't come first. The living happens first. The art comes from the living. And so you can't, when you separate it, it really doesn't make sense. But yeah, so it's the art is a part of it. And there's no other, you know what I mean? Like you can't have a sphere and then take this chunk out of it and then still call it a sphere. It's all together. And so, yeah, that's how I was raised. So performing was just a way of sharing culture, not a way of making money or being seen. It was a way of sharing culture.
At what point I might be skipping ahead biographically, but at what point did you decide, though, that making music is what you wanted to pursue vocationally and professionally?
It's actually quite interesting. Definitely not something that he was pushing, but I was in undergrad at Howard University, HU, and I was there as a pre-med major because my mom was a doctor. So, and I always wanted to be a doctor, even though, music, blah, blah, whatever. In my head, I was gonna be a doctor. I was pre-med. This notorious biology professor was failing all of us. I don't even want to say her name.
Such as, weeder biology classes are meant to do.
Right, exactly. It's the weeding
sorry,
process.
Sorry, to back up a little, you go to Howard because obviously med school there, it's a very good program.
Yeah,
and it's local and it's...
And it was home.
Yeah.
Howard was home. Like almost all of my siblings went to Howard University. It's down the street. Like it just made sense.
And it also happens to be the mecca of
like,
HBCUs down the street.
It just made sense. Howard University made sense. And I don't think I applied to anywhere other than Howard. And they didn't let me know until late, but I digress.
So this biology professor is failing everybody.
Biology professor's failing everybody. She was also notorious for not letting you withdraw from her class. It was a whole thing. And I remember talking to my mom, and I was like,
"You will get your F."
Right. I was like, Mom, I'm not feeling this. This is not going to work. And so let me back up a little bit. My godmother, who was also part of Nation with my dad.
What was her name?
Kehembe Eichelberger. She's still there now. She's still at Howard University in the jazz department. She saw that I could sing. And she was like, okay, I want you to audition so that you can get vocal lessons from me. And I was like, okay. No pressure at all. God, Mom, okay. But she was like, no, you're going to do it. And I was like, okay, cool. So I auditioned. I got in. And so I was taking vocal lessons with her while being pre-med and being an HU student. I will also say I had just turned 17, so I was a baby.
So this was like freshman year.
Yes, this was all freshman year. I just turned 17. I graduated from high school at 16, turned 17, went to Howard University. I'm like this little baby thing walking around, and I'm like, this lady wants to fail me? But why? What's happening? So my mom was like, just withdraw from the class. So I had a meeting with her. She was super cool. Like, okay, no problem. And I was like, let me hurry up and run, get this paper signed and insured. And so I let go of that class, and chemistry was cool, but I was like, I'm good. And my mom was like, follow your heart. Do what you feel like you need to do. And I was like, okay, let me try this jazz thing. And my dad was like, you sure about that? Like, right. Okay. He was definitely not somebody who was going to be like, don't do it. But he was like, just be cautious. And so I
Which, as a musician, he knows.
He knows a lot. He knew a lot, right? I had absolutely no idea. I grew up very sheltered. So I was like, okay, cool. So I did it. The jazz department head at the time was Dr. Dawkins, one of my favorite humans in the world, one of my favorites. And he was super excited about me coming because I also was playing piano. So I took piano.
What year was this?
This was 1996 is when I started, and I became a jazz major proper in 1997. And so, I started there and I soared. I soared. It was the best decision I made.
And we interviewed Paul Carr yesterday, and he was talking about the influence that Mr. Irby and Dr. Dawkins had on him during his schooling.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So,
the fact that he's there is a
generations.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So Dr. D was my hugest supporter there. He was just like, anything that I needed, he was going to make it happen. He was just like, okay, Quia, what else you doing? But he really wanted me to stick with the piano. I think he was trying to make a new Nina Simone. And, it stuck enough for me. I can write a song.
You can't make a Nina.
No, you can't. You can't craft that. That just happens.
What do you, so you're studying music now, do you join Afro Blue or the jazz ensemble? What do you do to
I'm an old lady.
develop?
That didn't happen until after I was there. So I was actually in between Webster Lewis. It's Webster Lewis, I believe so. It's Webster. Mr. Webster and Afro Blue. So my teacher was Professor Covington. Charles Covington was my improv teacher.
Charles Covington.
Yes, a complete virtuoso prodigy on the piano, and just one of the sweetest humans on the planet. So that was my improv teacher. I also took improv with Charlie Young. Yeah, he was an amazing teacher.
God, he's also been there for generations.
Yes. And then my vocal teacher was Kehembe Eichelberger, as my godmom. And my vocal coach was Grady Tate. So yeah, I mean, it was a pretty phenomenal experience. I'm like name dropping, like, right. So it was really amazing, and they were very. It was home. It was home, and I made some of my best friends during that period in the music program. So
I was gonna say, who else was there at the same time?
So Janelle Gill was there with me. Quincy Phillips was there with me. One of my best girlfriends, Brandy Austin. She's in Milwaukee. Chris Fun was there. He wasn't in the music department, but he might as well have been.
Yeah, the story is that he went to get a computer science degree, but then played up and down U Street every night.
He was there like every day. He was in the music department because he also played with the bands, all of the bands and stuff. So Chris Fun was there with me. So it was a bunch of us. We were cool as hell. It was just like, it was good. It was good.
Do you start?
Oh, Raymond Angry. Yeah, it was a bunch of us.
Do you start playing out, gigging, whatever word you want to use, while you're in college?
No, I didn't start because to be completely honest with you, I didn't start singing as a performer until college. So this was all brand new to me. So I didn't feel solid enough to do that. I didn't do it until I think maybe I had 1 or 2 gigs after I graduated. I graduated in 2000. I had maybe 1 or 2 gigs in 2001, 2002. And I was like, I'm not feeling this at all.
Singing or the gigging itself?
The gigging, the being out there, it was a stark difference from the incubator of college.
And I'm so sorry, and your father's school.
Yeah, so I was in like these little bubbles, and then I'm in the world, and I was like, nah, I'm not feeling this. And one of the things, I tell people this all the time, I was not trying to be that lonely vocalist in a smoky jazz room. That hit me hard once I came out, and I was like, nah, we're not doing this. So
was there a natural aversion to that, or did part of that come from this sense of kind of, as your parents had instilled, like a performing for the culture kind
that
of
part.
Not performing, but expressing for the culture, expressing with
I think
purpose.
It was part of that, but I think most of it came from just my rearing as a family developer. My parents were very much like, you guys, we want you to get married and have children, have a solid, complete family. But also my grandparents the same way. Like, I come from a strong family on both sides. So the idea of just being out here, just kind of willy-nilly, and because I saw how ugly the business was when I came out, I was like, it's not going to feed me the way I needed to feed me. So I decided to go to graduate school and get my master's in social work and start my family. I got married, got my degree, had my 2 babies, and then 2008, 2008, my husband was like, babe, you gotta.
So for 8 years, you're kind of not.
I was, doing some backgrounds here and there. I would drop some vocals on some people's recordings, but nothing. You
were not a working musician, shall we say?
No, I wasn't. It was very part-timey, just to be out. And then it was like, okay. Well, one of the reasons I decided to be like, really jump into it, they banned smoking in clubs. That was a big deal. That was a big deal for me because literally, and I'm a very visual, fartsy kind of person. My visual was a lonely, drunk vocalist in a smoky room. And once
like Nina in those last years in Paris.
Yeah, but it's just so many people have gotten caught in that cycle of just loneliness and just being eaten by the business. And I was not going to do that. So when they said smoking is out, and I'm like, I'm a whole vocalist. Like, that's a big deal. So I was like, all right, maybe let's try this. And my husband like, babe, you gotta do it. And so then I started, I met Omar through Janelle Gill because I called my friends from school. I was like, okay, I want to do this. I called Janelle. She was like, okay, well, then let's do some gigs. She's wide open. I'm like, all right, let's do this. And so
Omar Brown, the owner of Bohemian Caverns.
Yeah, so she introduced me to Omar Brown, and we did some a couple of gigs there. And I remember talking to Aisha, who was bartender there, and she was like, girl, you do that Nina real good. And I was like, right? And so we kind of would talk, and it was like, yeah, you should definitely do a tribute if you want. And I was like, that would be so killing. And she was like, just talk to O. And I talked to him, and he was like, he put out his little calendar, and was like, yeah, when you want to do it. And I was like, wait, what? I was scared immediately, but I did it, and it was sold out both shows, and I was like blown away, like, oh my God, this is a real thing.
This is 08 or 09 or somewhere around there.
2008. It's 2008. The summer 2008 is when I did my first Nina tribute, and then the following year, we added Miriam Makeba. And so, Bohemian Caverns was that was my spot for years. Another incubator. I found a new home. So, yeah.
Was it not just also that you were, clearly you're selling out, the crowds are responding, it's all good, but you're also embodying and expressing the culture in a way that you were raised to do?
Absolutely. And I think that's a huge deal, because I was a grown-ass woman with a whole family. So it wasn't like I was going to come out here and somebody was going to mold me into what they wanted me to be. So I was grown. This is who I am. If you don't like it, it's fine. I will do it somewhere else. And so I'm privileged in that space, so I didn't have to take all the gigs. I was very clear about my path and what I was going to express. And that included all kinds of music. It was definitely jazz-based, and I would be swinging all the time, but it was clear who I was. You saw me, you was going to see me with some African clothes on, but I'm a
probably singing a Miriam Makeba
Probably,
song.
I'm a throw in a Nina, a Miriam song, and keep it moving. And it was cool. But I think what was pivotal was that I was grown at that point. I was very steeped in who I was. Yeah.
You had a job, you had a family, you had those foundations that your parents emphasized, allowing you to better define yourself.
Yeah. And I had clear directive. I had a clear mission for what it was that what I was using my voice for. And I think that's pivotal. It's super important, because your voice is so powerful. It's a responsibility. I have to be responsible with it. So I was in a place where I, as a teenager, you're like, I can do whatever I want. But I was grown, and I was clear in what my mission was.
What obviously you call Janelle and you say, let's do some gigs. Where else are you playing when you're first dipping your toe in?
It's so funny, because wasn't that the year, it was 2008.
Around the time Obama was elected.
So his inauguration was one of my first gigs. It was an inauguration party. So Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are big in my story, because my first gig was with Janelle at an inauguration party. And so, it was like stuff like that, but very much Bohemian Caverns, Twins at the time. Twins on U Street, not Twins on, what's the other one? Colorado,
yeah.
Yeah, not Twins on Colorado. That was college. But Twins, and I don't think I got Blues Alley for a while. But yeah, all of the little spots. Cafe Nema. Did I sing there? I would go there and hang. I don't think I had a full-on gig there. But yeah, so around town.
HR 57.
I would go to their jam sessions. I don't think I had my own gig. Yeah. But again, I wasn't outside like that. I was very much a mom of 2 small children and a wife. So I was here when I was here, and I was home when I wasn't here. So the only way that I would be coming into town is if I had, it had to make sense. Yeah.
So you'd gotten your master's in social work. Were you working during the day, or were you mostly home rearing at this point?
I'm such my mom's baby, and so spoiled. I came out of my master's program and did a couple of interviews, and they were like telling me that what I would need to do and how much I would get paid for it. And I was like, Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not doing the shit. What? Can I curse?
Yeah.
Not too much. Okay. Yeah, so what I ended up doing was my husband was like super surprised, but I was like, hey babe, this ain't gonna work. So I worked for my mom at her she was a private practitioner. So I worked in billing and helping her for a long time actually. And later on I started teaching at my parents' school. I would say that was probably around 2009, 2010. Yeah. Yeah. But in between 2001 and 2008, I was working for my mom. Yeah.
How do you start pursuing this, this work as a singer intentionally kind of after those first handful of gigs in 08 and 09?
I just started reaching out to different facilities. And then I was like, again, it goes back to my college friends. Another really good friend of mine, my son's godfather, is Adrian Jermaine Mobley. And so he was in school with me and he moved down to Atlanta with his family, but he's a producer. So I was like, I want to do an album. And he was like, let's do it. So I came down to Atlanta, we recorded it, and that was my first album.
Which is called?
A Piece of Mind. I think I put it out in 2008. It was either 2008 or 2009. I put my first album out. So then I was able to like market myself. Like I want to do a album release and can I come and do a gig with you? It wasn't easy, but I think what made it easy was these connections I had, these friends that I had from school who were professional musicians, and who were...
I mean, Quincy Phillips, Chris Fun.
Yeah.
Like, people who are working all the time.
Yes, working all the time and really building their own careers. So when I called on them, they were like, yeah, let's go. So they were like my first bands. Was the only person who's like been there constantly is Chris Fun. He's been that, so that was from, Chris, Janelle, Quincy, we knew each other from 1997. Yeah. Yeah, so it was, I was blessed that I had made these amazing connections with working musicians and I could just call them.
Very good working musicians.
Excellent working musicians. I said I'm a little spoiled. I'm a little spoiled when it comes to that too. I always get phenomenal musicians who work with me.
When did you start calling or kind of form, obviously the Tribe, your band is not a band in the sense of like, it's not the same five people every time.
It's more of a concept.
But when did the kind of brand, seems like such a bad word to use, but that kind of identity of you as a live performer coalesce of Akua and the Tribe?
So another killing musician that I started working with is Mongezi Ntaka. He's from South Africa and he plays guitar. And so he would play with me on my Miriam Makeba tributes. And there was one gig that we had, it was like some embassy something. And he was like, yeah, this is the Tribe. This is the Tribe. And I was like, huh, it kind of is. And so it stuck. I was just like, one day I was just like, yeah, it's Akua Allrich and the Tribe. And then people started being like, yeah, I'm trying to be a part of the Tribe. And I was like, huh, this is a thing. Okay.
Well, now it's a thing.
It is a thing. It is a thing. And I feel good about it. Tribe can have a negative connotation, but I mean, because it's a performance, it's my people. It's people who come through who can hold me down. And sometimes it's the same people, sometimes it's not. But I feel like, I kind of built my Tribe as I move on. If you played with me, you're part of the Tribe, unless I just didn't call you back. You got kicked out.
So after 2010, how are you building your career more? Building your singing, your artistic career more?
I can't remember the year, but Omral Brown became my manager. So he was really working heavily with us. And during that period, I did my second album, which was a live recording, Akua Allrich Live, Uniquely Standard. And it was recorded at Bohemian Caverns as well as another spot, but in Southeast. And so we put that one out.
We Act?
No, it was a spot in, it's like a performance arts space.
The Arc?
Yes, at the Arc, yes. And so, yeah, so he was helpful in that too. So we would always, we would meet. He and my husband, oh my God, he's the guy. He's gonna make it happen. He's the one nobody sees, but he's making this thing happen, right? So we would meet and we would plot out what our goals were, and we would go to these different events. It was just a constant hustle. I will say that it was because it was stressful, because I was really about building my brand, and it was important. The expression was important, but when I look back, I think the grind was a little too prevalent. But I think that also comes with
the territory.
Yeah, it comes with the territory, but also being young is not really prioritizing. So, but it was good though. It was really good. So Omar was in my was in the camp, and I also had a PR person. Her name was Paula, and so we were really pushing and pushing.
Well, what did that grind look like practically? Like, what kind of things were you doing? Like, where were you trying to play?
For me, the hardest thing, and this is I think typical of every local artist, is getting outside of your area. That was like really big, and it was not easy, still not easy. But and I don't know that we made a lot of headway during that period. I'm making more headway now, but I think that has everything to do with time and longevity, and like, I'm here, y'all. And I'm not going to change for nobody. What you trying to do? I think the day-to-day grind was just, it's different now with social media. Good Lord. Whew, that explosion. But, just promoting, calling you for an interview, folks like you, trying to get written up in newspapers. Like, that was a big deal. It's just connecting and getting interviews, and that was the big PR push. Let me get on the news, and it was a grind. It was a grind, and getting a lot of no's from clubs, and getting the right yeses. But what
were some of the right yeses?
Some of the right yeses were, I think, smaller spaces. So definitely the Cave. The Cave was one of, it was like this place. It was a treasure trove. It was just, I would go and I would just listen. And because I had such a good relationship, and he was so good with musicians, like musicians could come for free and just listen. So that was also part of my process, is going to listen to people and seeing how they were performing and what. And I'm missing this guy's name. I can't remember his name, but he was a saxophone player, and I went to see him. I think his name is Allen, J.D. Allen. I think that's right. I can't remember, but his presentation was so stellar. It made such an impression on me. But just going to see people, going to connect with people, being on the scene when I'd be like, babe, can you watch the kids? Let me go be on the scene. The Kennedy Center gigs were really big yeses. Those were really big yeses. The Atlas Performing Arts became one of my homes after the Cave went out of business.
Where was the Cave?
The Cave was on U Street. Oh my God, Lord have mercy. 11th and U Street, Northwest DC. And oh man, I remember that final night and I wept. Oh, that night was epic. And Omar's parents were there and his family was there because they were all a part of that whole process. And after...
You mean the Caverns or?
The Caverns. The whole business, because it was the Caverns and then they had the two top floors.
Yeah.
I can't remember those names. But afterwards, it was such a good hang. And then that later, when I got in the car, I just wept. Like, God, this is the end of a period. But it was also the beginning of another period. What was some other spots that was big? It's another one. Is Westminster.
An Atlas being, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
An Atlas was the home for the Miriam Makeba Nina Simone tribute for a while.
Yes, so Bohemian Caverns was the original home of Nina Simone Miriam Makeba tribute, and then the Atlas picked it up and we started doing it there. Yeah, that was my spot for a long time, and then COVID happened, man. Whew, that took us all out. Another big yes was PG Public Playhouse. Beautiful venue. But again, these are places that I just never would have even thought were going to be the yeses I would think was going to be my yes. But when it happened, it was just like, whoa, I am blown away by this. I also, because I was working with the different musicians, they would call me for their gigs. Like Chris's wife, he and his wife created this amazing production.
Chris's wife, Paige Hernandez Fund.
Paige Hernandez Fund, yes. They started a production called Liner Notes. And that was another big yes for me because I was the featured vocalist, still am when she does it. But it was just brilliant. And it just connected the work as jazz musicians that we do. And for me personally, my husband, who's a whole hip hop head, it connected us in a different kind of way. So it was just really cool. That was another big yes. But yeah, throughout it, I'm sure I'm
sorry, you were saying Westminster.
Westminster was another yes. And I didn't know, again, I didn't know it. They've been doing this every Friday, jazz night, for I don't even know how long.
It was 27 years this year, I think.
Wow.
Started in 99.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, but when I went and I performed, I was just like, yo.
Where did you go first as a performer?
Yeah, yes.
How did Dick Smith reach out to you?
Dick, I think I might have been on somebody else's gig. And then we talked afterwards, and Dick, he's like, yeah, girl, you kill it. So it's like, yeah, give me your information and I'll hit you up. And so he did eventually hit me up to have me present as Akua Allrich. And when I went, it was like, they were like, yeah, you killed it, you were amazing. But I was just like, man, the connection with the crowd and the band was so beautiful. It was healing for me. I was like, y'all were killing. Like, this was, so those are the yeses for me. When it's an organic kind of, we are feeding each other, not just the band, but also the audience. We're building each other up.
It's not a transaction. It's a mutual celebration.
It is. It's a mutual celebration. It's a raising of the vibration. It's a spiritual moment. We're all creating this thing together. It's not just us performance for performance art. It really tears me up when I go and do a performance and people are not engaged. It's I have to code switch. So even like theater, if I'm doing theater with somebody, and I don't do much of it, but if there's a theatrical kind of production, I really have to code switch because I'm looking for the connection with the audience. But yeah, so those are the yeses for me.
When did you start acting?
Oh, no. No. Oh, no.
Sorry.
Generally, if I'm in a production, it's because they want me to be the singer in the production, not an actress.
When did you start in theater productions? Was it that Chris and Paige?
I think that was probably the first kind of theater-esque production. I'm doing another one with Dominic Farinacci. It's another brilliant production that emphasizes mental health, the importance of mental health, and the difficulties of mental health as service members, and even addicts, like what that looks like. That tells their stories, and so it's very.
By service members, you mean members of the armed forces, or
members of the armed forces, police officers, but also community members, people who are ex-convicts or were ex-drug addicts, and they found their way through it, and then they kind of tell their stories, and then I have to embody whatever the writing is and sing. It's brilliant, but again, it's like all of that mental health, social work stuff that I did in school. It actually comes together with my performance. So So yeah, it's different though, because it requires you to wait for any kind of interaction with the audience.
Until the
you have to wait. Sometimes there's no clapping. It's like, no, move, next scene. And I'm just like, God.
No, I mean at the end, at curtain call.
Yes, curtain call, yes. And they're just like, oh, you were amazing. I'm like, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. Yes.
How has you been, I know you mentioned it, what was being out on the scene for you like when you were, as you said, kind of, honey, take the kids, I need to be out on the scene. What were you doing?
I would go to different people's shows. I would definitely go to different gigs. I would go to some jam sessions here and there. I've never really liked jam sessions.
It's not really for singers, are they?
Yeah, but I would still try and do it because I think it is important. It is a part of the culture that needs to happen. It's just like my anxiety goes nuts. Like, who's playing? Do they know my music? Da, 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 da. But it was hugely important for me though to go and support other musicians and to go and learn from other musicians. I would literally go and sit in a cut because I just wanted to learn. And then I would go and try and talk to them at the bar during the breaks and stuff. And the hang is huge. The hang is huge. I think anywhere, but DC's hang it's notoriously been kind of killing. And we've always been really supportive of each other. So that was really a part of just being on the scene, was supporting each other. And the hang, just vibing with each other, just talking. Because again, the art happens because life is happening. So you gotta be in the life to really express completely.
Where would you be going to? I know we've talked about a lot of places.
The best hang was Bohemian Caverns. That was the best hang. But what was another? Twins was a really good hang too. Twins was good. The Twins, they were great. Just U Street. Eventually. JoJo's eventually, yep. But I didn't get to JoJo's until I think I would say much later from when they started, because there were still solid jazz clubs. Now not so much, but there were still solid jazz clubs that I would just go to. Cafe Neiman was still around, and then
Utopia.
Yep, Utopia. Oh my God, yes, Utopia. I forgot about Utopia. Yeah, Utopia. I like it. Reading is fundamental. So
surely that can't apply to me.
Right, not at all. They're not talking to me. U Street and Adams Morgan, big time. That was like.
So like Bosa and.
Yeah, all of them. Bukum, and there's another spot. What's the Ethiopian restaurant on U Street? They started doing music there. Oh. Ooh, what is that?
No, Dukum's on U Street.
Dukum
is on U Street.
Yes.
And did music for a while.
Yeah, they did music for a minute. And that was cool. So it was just U Street. It was like it would just be stuff that would just pop up. Like, it's just not the same. Yeah.
I was gonna say, how has your work and changed as the city? Not necessarily what you do, but where and how you do it. How has that changed as the city has changed over the last 20 years?
That's interesting. Knock on wood, that's wood. I have been blessed to have made really good connections with folks. And, just this DMV area, like Warren Wolf, a buddy of mine, he's...
Not from D.C., but Baltimore.
Not from D.C., Baltimore
like Quincy
native.
And Chris.
Yep, like Q and like Chris.
Chris referred to it.
Yeah, but...
I interviewed Chris a number of years ago and referred to Warren as, he was like the jazz god in high school.
Really? Was he?
Because
I could see that.
Still even in high school days, he's Warren Wolf.
That is hilarious.
But high school, he's Warren Wolf, which was a prelude to, he's
Warren Wolf, right? Yes. Yeah, and I don't remember, how did I even connect with, probably through Chris. I need a piano player, and I didn't know who Warren Wolf was, and I'm still one of those people who don't know who people are, which is a curse and a blessing at the same time. It's a blessing because I could just meet you on a very human level. It's a curse because I don't know who I could just be talking to right now. But he played on my Nina Simone Mary McCabe tribute. And he was like, yeah, man, you kind of killing. And I was like, thanks, Warren, thank you. And he was like, yeah, so, he was talking about some gig. And I was like, okay, cool. I gave him my information. He called me. We went to Doha together, Doha, Qatar, for Jazz at Lincoln Center out there. So he connected me with a lot of people. He actually connected me with...
Talk about getting out of town.
Right, exactly. So I got out of the city, went to Doha, Qatar. So it's like little by little, and met Richard Johnson out there. I think he was behind the scenes. He was one of those people who was like, yo, you need to get Akua out here. And so they brought me to present myself in Doha, and me and Dominic connected. And so now I'm on Dominic's production. So it was just like word of mouth, working with people, which is a huge thing, like making sure that we're connecting. But again, on a very human level, it was never a, oh my God, who are you? It was never that. It was always, we're all collectively trying to build this thing. And so I've worked with some pretty heavy hitters and didn't know it.
Where else have you played outside the country?
Outside of the country... St. John. I did St. John's a couple of years ago. Oh goodness, my memory. Fabulous still playing player.
Was that Victor Provost or?
Victor Provost. It's my guy. Such a cool dude. Fabulous musician. And he and his family have an organization in St. John's. And so he brought me out there with the tribe a couple of years ago. So St. John, not a lot. I haven't done a lot of out of the country stuff, but and then I did the one of those cruises, one of those jazz cruises with liner notes. But yeah, most of my stuff is heavily here.
Sure. I was just more curious, like what it's been like connecting with non-American audiences and that context.
Oh, Doha was definitely not a jazz town, so it was it was a little sparse in there often, but. I don't know. I've heard about Europe being amazing. I still have not.
Or like at least St. John's.
St. John's was cool. They were cool. It was, funny enough, mostly white Americans there. So it was just odd. It was the least Caribbean island that I've ever been to. Yes, DC, yes. Fire trucks.
And then at some point you and Chris, who'd been in the tribe forever, you and him formed this other band, Idle Beings.
Yes, and that was one of those spaces, and I feel like it came out of COVID, where we were like...
I thought the first single was pre-COVID, though.
Yes, but like it really got solid. And COVID was... Oh, such a strange time. But yes, we was like, okay, let's do this. Because we were doing duo gigs pretty consistently. And unbeknownst to me.
Or you're with Herman Burney sometimes.
Yes, but it was like, unbeknownst to me, vocals and bass was not like popping. Like people are not out here just doing duo. What are you doing? I don't care. This is what feels good. And then the way Chris plays is so melodic anyway. So it just like, and probably because we've known each other for 300 years, we're able to really create this thing. And so it's like, let's just try it. And so we did. We did put out some stuff before COVID. And then I got a grant through Chamber Music America. And we put out a full project in 2022.
That sounds right.
Yeah. But before that, in 2015, we were kind of playing at it. We did some trio stuff on my album, which was at Soul Singer. It's one of my favorite albums. Yes, we did some trio stuff, and actually, Nicholas Payton made a cameo on there. Let me tell you something. That again. I have had such amazing experiences with such amazing musicians. I think I might have sent him something, was like, hey, it would be really cool, because I think I met him. I met him at Blues Alley. Again, just meeting people. And I was like, it would be really cool if you could be on my album, if you could just play something and you could do it down there, whatever. And so I sent him these tracks that we had already recorded, and they were our trio tracks. That was the stuff with me, Chris, and Fonville. Corey Fonville was on drums on the album. And Warren Wolf was on that album too. So we sent it to him and he sent it back and I was like, what just happened? And he was just like, yeah, he did it for 3 tunes. And I think I asked him just for one. But one of them, I Can't Stand the Rain. Oh my God. He didn't just play horn. He played the Rhodes. And when I heard it, I flipped. We flipped like, yo, and didn't ask for a dime. Again, just being in community with each other. It's a brilliant thing. It's a brilliant thing. And to be able to record it and have it. Yeah. Yeah. I've been blessed.
And going back to Westminster, how's it, obviously from those first couple occasions, how's your kind of knowing what they do now, how's that has not changed, but how has that added to your appreciation for the space?
I think when I started performing there and I learned about their history and the work that they've done just in just uplifting people and in the community, I was moved by that. But because, my background, so it was just like, oh man, it's always good to connect with folks who've been doing the same stuff that your family has been doing for generations. So it's just like, yeah, this is right. So over the years, when Dick Smith calls me, I'm like, yes, sir. What do you, Mr. Smith, how can I help you?
Tell me when.
Yeah, and he's like, well, can you come? Yeah, what dates you got? And so we'll work out the dates. I'm there. It's not even a question, and it's funny because whenever I hit the other cats and the way that they work, it's not like it's not one price for the band and then I got to do, no. You get the cats and we're going to pay the cats too, which I completely appreciate because the cats know how much it's going to pay. And I'm like, can you do it? Yep. Because the vibe is so killing. And I think everybody says yes because the vibe is so killing. Plus for them, not for me, for them, it's an early enough gig. They can take the gig and then run and do another gig. My behind goes home, goes sleep. But yeah, no, just over the, I've been really, really happy with.
But Warren has played there and now Ben Williams and it's
yeah, everybody plays it because it's a killing spot.
You talk about a hang.
It is. It's a hang, but just the energy, the vibe, the level of support that they provide, and it's accessible to so many people. So. Yeah.
What do you, kind of looking overview now, what is everything you kind of do now and your career and, whether through music or teaching, like what are all the things you do that we're kind of summing up at the end here?
I do so much stuff. Oh my God. I do a lot. Well, I'm doing a whole lot of things. So I'm finishing up my latest project, which we are putting out. I've been doing some tours around town, and I'm excited about it because I was able to record my dad's music, as well as Nina Simone, Mary McCabe tunes, and in my own originals. So I'm really excited about this project, and it's gonna be the first one that's on vinyl. So I'm like over the moon about that. So just continuing with the music. And continuing with the programming at NationHouse. I'm still helping. I'm the director of the preschool programs. So just being there and making sure that that's facilitated and happening for day to day.
I was going to say, what does that
look like?
Entail?
So I am there. I'm not there every day anymore. My son just graduated from high school last year. Yes, that's my baby. And so my 2 kids are old now. And so I have a little bit more time to really develop this music thing and the legacy of my music, because I did go through a period where I was like, I'm not just trying to be out here gigging until I'm 72. What I'm doing with this? So I joined the board of Capital Bop, which is brilliant. And we've been doing some really amazing stuff. I started with our education program through Capital Bop, which is going really, really well. And we're in Ward 7 Northeast. which is hugely important.
Hugely important.
Right. We're in that Deanwood area, and that's where NationHouse is as well. So I'm like 5 minutes away from the space that we work at the Riverside Center, and it's also where Marvin Gaye was raised, in Deanwood. So it's a big deal. So just really continuing the music and the education piece, and merging them. I'm really excited about that. As well as building my brand and working with other people and being able to travel different places all around the country and hopefully internationally soon. So yeah, I work with a Rites of Passage program, which came out of NationHouse through Oncobia. So I'm through. Oncobia is the organization which came out of NationHouse. It was a response to the heavy drug issues in the 90s, and a lot of our boys were being murdered, and it was a thing. The 90s in DC was like, it was wild.
Dave Chappelle has a bit.
Right, it was wild. It was wild. And what was crazy was that it was hot and cold. It was like this brilliant stuff happening, but then this really ugly stuff happening, and so Oncobia came out of that, which was to provide a space for Rites of Passage program for young Black youth.
What does Rites of Passage do?
They are learning about womanhood and manhood and what that means, and building their families and being of service to their community, and the reason that they're here as human beings, not just to be lost in this government-made chaos. Yes, so much chaos. It's so much chaos, and the kids get lost in the cracks because our communities are so broken down. So, that's what Oncobia has been. It's been a response to that. So I work with the Rites of Passage program and with the work. I do a lot of stuff. I stay busy. But I am deeply blessed. I'm really.
But come when Dick Smith calls.
Yeah, I do. When it's time to sing, and it's time to sing.
Wrapping up, we kind of talked about it, but as a kind of ending, what does Westminster now mean for you, and what do you think it means for I'll say the jazz community, but also just the Black community in DC?
Oh. Yeah, well, the Black community in DC, that's a whole conversation in and of itself, because we've been priced out so successfully.
I recall 10 years ago, most articles saying Howard students are now living a lot in Prince George's County.
Yeah, it's Ward 9. That's where I live. I live in PG County. So, but it doesn't have the same Black businesses, Black upward mobility. It's upper mobility for sure, but it's so much more spread out. We don't have, DC is very city. It's very small, but it's very city.
Biggest small town.
Yeah, it is. It's the biggest small town in the U.S., right? So you could literally go anywhere and find something. But Maryland is so big. You really gotta drive, which everybody can't. So it's a thing. But so Westminster still represents that light that the DC arts scene has always been. It is that spark. And it's very community based. It's very accessible. It's $10. What club do you know where you can pay $10 and come and get a brilliant presentation? 3 sets. So, and then
dinner is $10
some food. It's brilliant. I think it is a hidden treasure. It's funny because I was just telling I was in New York this last week. And I was talking to the cats who were on the gig, and I was like, yeah, they were like, what's the spots in DC? And I was like, there's a few, but I was like, but you know what? A hidden gem is Westminster. I actually was talking about Westminster, and they were like, huh? I was like, no, it's really killing, and the music is killing every week. So the programming has been phenomenal. It's a gem, and hopefully they can continue it. I know the business is hard. And just having an institution in DC is hard. But yeah, I'm just glad that they call me. I'm always going to make myself available to come to Westminster to get me some healing and to give some healing. And it's funny, this my last concert that I did, I think women from my entire growing up, like each generation, they were represented. And they would just enjoy. This one woman came up to me, just a complete queen, walked up on the stage, was like, grabbed my hands and said, "I am so proud of you." And I was like, really? And then she walked back down into the audience. And that's how I started the gig. So it was like, and when I was singing, I was looking out in the audience and their eyes were closed and they were swaying. And I was like, I'm living my purpose. So that's what Westminster, I'm gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. I got way too much weight to make it more. Westminster is a hub for artists to remember their purpose and to share that purpose with the community.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Yay! Jackson asks the best questions.
He's amazing. He is a pro.
Oh my